Hey Guitar Geeks, Guitar Guts here with a quick setup guide for SG guitars. If you already know how to set up your SG and you just need the numbers because you forgot the measurements, here they are real quick. Gibson pickup height should be 4/64 on the high E or treble side and 6/64 on the bass or low E side. String height, checked at the 12th fret, should be 4/64 on the treble, high E side, and 6/64 on the bass side. The neck relief, checked at the 7th or 8th fret, should be about 12 thousandths. I've also seen a published number that shows that as 10 thousandths. That's almost 1/64 if you're measuring in 64ths. Now, if you're not sure what I mean by any of that, or you'd like a few more details to set up your guitar with, just hang with me because I'm about to explain how to check every one of those individually. You'll need a few tools like screwdrivers, definitely a Phillips head, and perhaps a straight head screwdriver if your pickups have adjustment screws that require a straight slot. And you'll need the truss rod adjustment tool that came with your Gibson guitar. You may need a tuner as well. The first thing that you'll want to set is your neck relief. That is basically how much space the string has between it and the frets in order to vibrate through its standing wave pattern when you pluck the string. You'll need to capo at the 1st fret in order to remove the nut as a variable in trying to figure out the neck relief measurement. If you don't have a capo to install at the 1st fret, I've seen people use doubled up rubber bands or hair bow and tie it in the back with a twist tie off a bag of bread, and that works just as well. I've also seen some people use low-tack painter's tape in order to hold the strings down right there, and that's fine. If you've got a capo, it's easier to use that than it is the other things. So you'd set your capo at the 1st fret, and then you're going to be the capo at the other end of the fretboard. You're going to hold down with your finger at this end of the fretboard in order to make the string into basically a straight edge. And then you're going to measure the distance between the bottom of the strings and the top of the frets. These little string action gauge tools are some of the handiest things to have for guitar setups. They've got a lot of useful scales on them and a conversion table on the back, but what you'll be interested in for most setups is the scale that has inches and 64ths down this edge of the setup gauge. And it has it on both sides, so if you're ever working in a corner and the ruler's getting in your way, you can flip it around backwards and get the rest of that ruler out of your way while you're making the measurement. And then the scale that we're going to use for neck relief right now is the scale on the bottom, which measures things out in thousandths on the bottom. And that's what we're going to use to measure the neck relief. So remember that we've got the capo holding down at the 1st fret, and you're going to hold down and fret at the very last fret on the guitar, 22nd fret, or some SGs even have 24. And then take your ruler, and you're going to measure. I've seen a couple of things online. Some people are measuring it at the 7th fret. I've seen other things from Gibson saying to measure it at the 8th fret. And you're looking for just a little over 10 thousandths of an inch clearance underneath that string. So you're measuring around the 8th fret, and you're looking for about 10 thousandths to 12 thousandths between the top of the fret and the underside of the string. So you measure from the underside of the string all the way down to the fret. And then you'll do the same thing to the high E string. You'll hold down on the last fret and then measure from the bottom of the string to the top of the fret. And you should see somewhere between 10 thousandths and 12 thousandths of an inch clearance right there. When you adjust the truss rod on the neck, you'll need to use the truss rod wrench that came with your Gibson guitar. And looking at the neck from this direction back down toward the body, if you're staring at it in that direction, turning the wrench clockwise will give you less relief and make the distance between the string and the fret less. Turning it counterclockwise will give you more relief. You'll have more gap between the string and the fret if you need that. And people that play a little bit more aggressively may need a little bit more relief right there. If you don't have a string action gauge, you can substitute several things, one of which that I've had to use on the fly on occasions, a 10 gauge string. If you've got a set of strings that have a 10 gauge string, The smallest string on it, if you've clipped a little bit of it off when you changed your strings, you might still have a little section of it left, and that's 10 thousandths of an inch. So you can hold down on either end of the string, check and see if you've got that much clearance underneath it. And if you wanted to have a little bit more clearance, you can always use the 13 gauge string, and that will give you 13 thousandths inch clearance underneath the string for neck relief. So there's an easy way to do it if you don't have one of the string action gauges. Moving on down the neck, the next thing that we would check would be the string height. And Gibson suggests that you could check that at the 12th fret. And for the treble string, you're looking for 4 64ths clearance. And for the bass side, 6 64ths clearance. You want a little bit more room for the bass string to vibrate because you'll probably be hitting it a little bit harder, and it's just a bigger string. So for that, remember that you will have to remove the capo for this, because if you don't, that string will be a little bit higher than it should be when you check the action height down on the 12th fret. So checking at the 12th fret, you simply set your ruler behind the string and measure from the bottom of the string to the top of the fret. And you're looking for, on the bass side here, 6 64ths. And then on the treble side, on the high E string, you're looking for 4 64ths. You simply look up under that ruler and see how much you can see underneath the string, and that'll tell you how high your strings are. If you need to adjust the strings, if they're too high or too short, the thumb wheel on the bridge can be adjusted down by turning it clockwise, or up by turning it counterclockwise. And a lot of times that will turn with thumb pressure. If it won't, on a lot of guitars there is a screw slot in the top of that post right there. On these they're not, but in some guitars there is a screw slot right there that can aid you in turning that if it's a little too hard. But you can also just slacken your strings a little bit so it's easier to turn. Up will give you a higher string setting, and down will give you a lower string setting on that. And the last thing that we'll check here is the pickup height. Gibson recommends 4 64ths clearance for the high E string and 6 64ths for the low E string above the pickup pole pieces. If you've got covered pickups, there's only one set of pole pieces that you can check. If you've got uncovered pickups, I always check the adjustable screw pole pieces anyway. So I'll always be checking the same ones whether the pickups are covered or not. In order to check the pickups, remember that when you're playing the guitar, sometimes you'll be fretting down here on the lower end of the fretboard. And if you're playing a note down here on the 21st fret, your string's actually going to be a little closer to the pickup than it will be normally. And so you need to check your pickup height with that string held down, because it could be there occasionally when you're playing. So you simply hold your string down, put the string gauge in front of or behind, whichever one sits better, and check to see how much clearance you've got between the bottom of the string and the top of that pole piece. And what you're looking for on this side is 6 64ths. And then you'll switch over to the treble side and check that side, and in that case you're looking for 4 64ths clearance. Here's the neat thing about this little action gauge ruler. When you're checking the bridge pickup, if you tried to get behind it here with the same scale you were checking the neck pickup with, it won't fit because it's hitting the bridge. But you can flip this little thing over, and it's got the same scale going the other way, and it's really easy to check the string height on the bridge pickup there as well. You can usually get away with having the bridge pickup a little bit closer than you do the neck, and you can always raise or lower either side to get the string volume balance more to your liking. Well, that's about all there is. I will point out one more little thing that I usually check. I always make sure that the bridge tailpiece is not at too drastic of an angle behind the bridge. If you have that screwed all the way down to the body and your bridge is fairly high, it creates a really drastic angle behind the bridge heading down toward the tailpiece, and that can make your guitar harder to play. It can make the action feel a little bit stiffer. And so I like to be sure that that's raised up enough to where I have enough of an angle so that the string breaks over the saddle well without buzzing, but not so much of an angle that it makes the guitar harder to play. But other than that, you've got it set up at that point, and I hope the video has been helpful. I hope your guitar will play a little better after you get done than it did when you started. Let us know what you think in the comments section. If you found the video helpful, don't forget to hit the like button. Thanks for watching.